how are you feeling?
I feel pretty darn proud and excited. This is a historic day for our city, and I'm just, as I said to the council, this is what we can do when we all row together and we focus on a goal together. I mean, look at how fast we pushed that through. This was a long-term and very intentional effort between our administration and the Jaguars. We had a lot of things buttoned up. Council did a great job of evaluating it and offering their input and amendments, and we're there. And I just think, you know, as I've said so many times, Jake, you let things go too long and they can fall apart, right? They didn't let that happen, and I'm very grateful.
You feel like it's like a reset with council? I mean,
no, that's your narrative. I have never felt like I needed a reset with council. I have felt like I have worked well with this council from the time that I came in the door here. We are not always going to agree. That's what ends up making for good governance at the end of the day. You end up with some things you want and some things you don't necessarily want, but it's probably a better thing. So I'm grateful to this body, and I think they did a good job.
What's the one word you would use to describe this day or this moment?
Monumental. Monumental. I think it's generational progress.
Is there a lot of personal pride being a Jags fan, growing up a Jags fan, to be the one who helps push it through?
Are you kidding? I'm still pinching myself that I get to do this job. You know, it's why, you know, when we first started to talk, we were both so focused on making sure that we did this as well, as fairly, and as quickly as we could possibly do it, because we knew how important it was. We had a timeline, and we wanted the Jaguars to be able to get to that owners meeting in October and be able to present a good agreement. And I'm just, gosh, I'm so excited as a Jaguars fan, as a Jacksonville fan. I'm just thrilled.
You're about a year in. You're about a year in now. Do you feel like this is almost like your legacy this early on, this deal?
You guys have been saying that since I got elected, that this was going to be the legacy thing. And I will no doubt say it is a generational accomplishment. I hope we have many more legacy items to attend to. And I think that community benefits agreement is one of them. And I hope we have a lot more of that. As I said when I was elected, my goal is to lift every portion of this city. And I think that we can do that with this agreement. I think the stadium's a big piece of that, but I think we can do it by completing the rest of that CBA. So that and I hope we have much more to accomplish.
Last week I walked through some homes out east and saw some pretty terrible conditions for some of the people who live out there. I don't know what was promised to them in the past. They said things were promised, but are those people who live in those conditions going to get a portion of that money?
Absolutely they are. Well, you've heard Mark Lamping say they're going to get $75 million from the Jaguars. You look at what the city is proposing, and I think the reason that our portion is so powerful is ours comes up front and that theirs follows through and sustains that effort. And I thought one of the public speakers tonight made a really good point, that when we consolidated this city, it was the investment from the other parts of this city that have now been disinvested in that created this city the way it is today. And it's time to invest in those areas and to pay that back.
Mayor, I know that this was just one layer, so what's next?
What do you mean?
What's next? I know like this was the approval, so I know what will be next in general.
Well, hopefully as soon as council gets back from their break on the 17th, we'd like to start looking at the rest of the CBA. I would like that to be passed separate from the budget as part of this agreement. That's how we get matching funds. That's how we move together to make sure that this is honored for the entirety of the contract. And that's what I'm going to be working with council on.
Now, could that number fluctuate?
Well, sure. But council has a lot of control over the dollar amount, but my hope is that we can pass the entire $300 million.
$119 million as part of the CBA for the Jaguars, and then 75 for the East Side. Is that correct?
Yeah, what's in the legislation right now is just over $118 million. And while the dollars aren't specified, our original commitment, which we are going to stand by and advocate very hard for, is that $75 million of that 118 goes to benefit the Out East neighborhood. And that is the exact same amount that was in the total CBA package as far as the Jaguars are concerned.
Mark, I think you started looking at this whole stadium thing deal back in 2016, right? So is it almost hard to believe how far you've come and how long it's been and now that it's finally done?
Well, it is, and the reason we started on it so early is that we studied those cities that had problems with their teams. And unfortunately, there have been cities that have lost their NFL teams, and they generally all have the same thing in common. It's a smaller market, the team doesn't have a lease tying them to the city, and they have an unresolved stadium problem. And Shad's commitment from the very beginning was to do everything that we could to ensure that doesn't happen to Jacksonville. We started early on. We've been spending a tremendous amount of time and resources, particularly over the last 4 years, and we're thrilled that we could turn that goal. It was a goal that Shad had and that the community shared to keep the Jaguars here in Northeast Florida for generations to come. This evening, we've turned that goal into a reality thanks to the mayor and her team.
So the next step is obviously take it to the owners in October. Anticipating that going smoothly, or are there any issues that the league wants to
Well, there's
expand on?
there's a lot of questions, and generally the league really can't take these things up in their entirety until there's no contingencies. So we leave here tonight now with no contingencies as it relates to the stadium deal. We've obviously been keeping the league up to date throughout this entire process, and there's a lot of questions, but we're satisfied that we will be able to effectively answer those questions, and look forward to getting this finalized in mid-October.
Just want to clarify, the $150 million that you guys were going to match for the CBA, is that no longer going to be $150 million? As it's currently written into this deal, it's 119?
No, what we did when the city had to pause on their $150 million commitment, what we said was, we will honor our original $100 million, and then we will match $1 for every $3 that the city funds from 0 to 150, okay? They've put in 56. 1/3 of that is 18 million, so that's how we've gotten up to 118 million. And we hope that the city gets to the full 150, which would mean that we would go from 118 up to 150.
And that would come when that discussion on the rest of the dollars come in July.
Yeah, and it's a real incentive for the city to fund the entire community benefits agreement, which, make no secret about it, we wish they would have been packaged together in their entirety. It became apparent that it wasn't going to happen. And now we're going to advocate as hard as we can, along with the mayor, to make sure that we get back to that full $300 million.
Can the Jaguars grow to be as successful as they want to be without the east side growing to its full potential? Do they need to coexist to reach both of their full potentials?
Well, we've said many times, even going back to 2016 on the first State of the Franchise address when we first brought up the stadium issues, that we've always felt, and one of the reasons we're so focused on development downtown, is that we believe that as far as downtown goes, so will the Jaguars. So this isn't just total benevolence. We know that there's more people living downtown, more people working downtown, more people visiting. The Jaguars will benefit from that, as will the rest of the community. And clearly the neighborhood that is just north of the stadium is a critical part of that.